Canadian!
In a world where democracy needs a helmet and fact-checking is un-American, countries are warning their citizens maybe skip the US this year, and we say absolutely. In today's video, a Canadian election twist, Danielle Smith throws another tantrum, ceasefires collapse in real time, and the global south quietly builds a new world order while the west argues over TikTok. This week, truth bombs, sarcasm, and no apologies. Let's go.
Let's just get this out of the way. We're not stepping foot in the US anytime soon. Not for a road trip, not even for the world's best outlet mall. And you know we love a good deal.
The United States is no longer just a travel destination, it's a liability. And the world noticed. New Zealand, Germany, Australia, the UK, and yes, even Canada have all issued travel advisories warning about unrest and unpredictable border enforcement.
Tourism to the US from Canada is plummeting. Conferences are relocating, creators are skipping it. The fear isn't irrational, it's informed.
This is the same country where history gets rewritten by school boards, librarians need lawyers, and reality changes depending on whether you're watching Fox, CNN, or your cousin's TikTok rants. So yeah, we're skipping America. For our safety, our sanity, and for the simple fact that we refuse to normalize what's happening there.
And if you think having your paperwork in order guarantees safe passage, think again. Take the case of Jasmine Mooney, a Canadian actress and entrepreneur. Despite previously possessing a valid work visa, she was detained for nearly 2 weeks under harrowing conditions, denied basic rights, and treated like a criminal.
And Jasmine's story isn't unique. Thousands find themselves trapped in a system where minor paperwork issues or past mistakes can lead to indefinite detention. Many languish without charges, access to legal representation, or basic human rights, often enduring conditions worse than those faced by convicted criminals.
The US government's reliance on private, for-profit detention centers creates incentives to keep beds full, often at the expense of justice and humanity.
So when we say we're not traveling to the US, it's not just about avoiding personal inconvenience. It's about taking a stand against a system that dehumanizes individuals and undermines the very principles of freedom and justice.
So until meaningful reforms are made, our adventures will be elsewhere.
Back in Canada, where politics usually involves sweaters, polite politics, and passive-aggressive lawn signs, we just got hit with a plot twist. A federal election has been called, and the Liberals are leading in the polls. Didn't see that coming, did you?
Honestly, we think we have Danielle Smith to thank for that, because every time she opens her mouth, somewhere in Ontario, another undecided voter screams, "Fine, I'll vote Liberal."
Smith met with Prime Minister Mark Carney this week and basically handed him a political ultimatum wrapped in crude oil and attitude. If her list of demands isn't met in 6 months, she's threatening a national unity crisis.
National unity crisis is Canadian for do what I want or Alberta walks, like the mob, but in a fleece vest.
Because nothing says unity like threatening to take your toys and leave the country every time you don't get a new pipeline.
So let's just stop pretending Smith's outbursts are about fighting for Alberta. They're about power, oil, and a fantasy that she gets to run the country from Calgary with a megaphone and a pipeline wrench.
Let's talk pee-pee. Because while Trudeau is taking selfies in Canadian Tire,
and Carney's playing hockey with the Edmonton Oilers,
pee-pee is out here giving factory floor TED Talks like a man who already booked the U-Haul to 24 Sussex Drive. Yes, he speaks clearly, keeps it short, and yes, he has a bit of that dad who just discovered podcast confidence. We get it. He's not stumbling through answers. He's saying what a lot of people are feeling.
But here's where we start to worry. No security clearance, no clear plan, no real answers about where his funding comes from.
And no media allowed on the campaign bus. What is he hiding? And why are no reporters allowed around him to see what's behind the curtain? Because when your first move as PM in waiting is locking out journalists, it raises a few eyebrows.
And while his supporters love pointing fingers at Mark Carney for being a rich elite banker, let's not pretend Pierre is living off Timmy's coupons and Canadian Tire money. He's very comfortable with billionaires, especially the ones who don't pay taxes.
Which brings us to Trump. Now, Trump says he'd rather work with Canada's Liberals, which is classic Trump.
He's the ultimate opposite man. If he says he likes the Liberals, what he's really saying is, please let my guy PP win so we can fast-track Alberta oil to Mar-a-Lago. Now, some people may ask, if Trump says he likes the Liberals, won't that make the Maple MAGAs switch sides?
Come on, let's be real. No, that's not how Maple MAGAs work. They're not listening to Trump for his policies. They're following him for outrage, the culture war, and the brand.
Trump could endorse yoga and interpretive dance therapy tomorrow, but they'd still be ranting about electric trucks ruining hunting season and ew, unisex bathrooms at the hockey rink. They've already made up their minds, and facts, logic, or even Trump's actual words aren't changing a thing.
But for the rest of us, it's a sign. Because when Trump pretends to like the side he doesn't want in power, that's when you know exactly who he's really rooting for.
And let's remember that just because someone sounds like a leader doesn't mean they're not answering to someone else.
While Canada's sorting out its election and the US is getting travel warnings like coupons, the rest of the world still on fire.
Let's start with Russia. Putin says he's agreed to Trump's request for a temporary ceasefire on energy infrastructure.
According to Trump, this was a major diplomatic win. According to Ukraine, it was Tuesday.
Putin is playing the same game he always does. Say one thing, do the opposite, then smile for the cameras as he bombs his opponents. And Trump, he's just thrilled somebody finally took his call.
Meanwhile, in Gaza, another so-called ceasefire ended before the ink even dried.
Israel resumed full-scale attacks, hundreds dead, infrastructure flattened, and Netanyahu declared this is just the beginning.
Trump, of course, blamed Hamas, as if the civilians being bombed had anything to do with negotiating terms.
Hostages are still missing, families are furious, US allies are split, and on the ground, it's more death, more rubble, and more heartbreak all over again.
So this is what peace looks like now. Statements crafted for headlines, not for people. Ceasefires announced, broken, and ignored even before they begin.
It's performative politics. You don't get points for saying the word peace if you're still pulling the trigger.
So when leaders toss around ceasefires like marketing slogans, let's be clear. Words are cheap, lives aren't. As the West spins in circles over culture wars, leadership scandals, and collapsing alliances, something big is happening elsewhere. A global power shift. And yes, Donald Trump's actions is accelerating a new world order.
Power is shifting away from Washington and into new hands. Some of those hands, not exactly democracy's biggest fans.
Let's be honest, this didn't start with Joe Biden. It was Trump who pulled the US out of global partnerships, insulted allies, abandoned trade deals, and basically yelled, "Every man for himself," into a G7 microphone.
And the rest of the world heard that loud and clear, so they moved on. They started building new systems without the West.
Now we're seeing countries like Brazil, India, and South Africa aligning with China and Russia, not because they love authoritarianism, but because someone showed up with a serious offer. Money, roads, resources, and respect.
And here's why we still don't get it. Why did Trump do it? The US was at the top, the economy was strong, allies trusted each other, the US had the world's ear and its respect.
Then Trump came in like a wrecking ball with a golden tie clip. He scrapped trade deals, insulted partners, backed out of climate accords, and handed the stage to authoritarian regimes with a wink and a thumbs up.
Which brings us to the question no one seems to want to ask out loud. Was this really about putting America first? Or was he following someone else's orders?
And now, here we are. The old world order collapsing, the global south rising, the west floundering. Ugh.
It's a mess.
It is.
But Canada, we still have a shot to be the voice of reason, to stand up for truth, to lead with clarity, not chaos.
We can be the country that builds, that bridges, that reminds the world leadership isn't about domination. It's about showing up with principles.
Canada has a choice to make. We can cling to fading influence and pretend the old world order still works, or we can step up now, show leadership, and actually help shape what's coming next.
Because the future isn't waiting. And if we keep letting chaos drive the bus, guys like Putin and Trump will happily choose the route for us.
So no, we're not stepping foot in the US right now, but we are stepping up for something better. And we hope you are too.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this if you're not giving up on the world. Because we're not.